and we're glad you're watching.
Diamond P Sports presents the American Sports Cavalcade. A panorama of speed, color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade.
Dallas, Texas is one of America's most important and famous cities, but it's still a place where you can find a little room to stretch out. It's also a city of tremendous contrast, from cattle grazing on nearby ranches to high-tech computer science, and of course the JRs of the oil business, putting together their famed million-dollar deals in the glass and steel high-rises downtown. Well, if JR, Bobby, and the good old boys are up there today, they ought to look over this way, because that's where the action is, Fair Park, home of the Cotton Bowl, the annual Texas State Fair, and today, the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans, and today in a parking lot in Fair Park, one of contrasting surfaces, has been laid out a rather diabolical 1.2-mile road course. And starring on that course today will be the Sports Car Club of America's Escort Trans Am Sedan Championship. For more on the racing we'll see, here's Paul Page.
You know, Steve, the great thing about the Trans Am is the amazing mix of machines. You have V8s, you have European cars, you have American manufactured machines, you have all kinds of drivers. Some get very nervous before the start. Other drivers like Paul Newman take it just a little bit more casually as they await for the command to start engines and get underway. But the Trans Am contributes a little of everything. European cars, high-dollar machines, privateer operations. The Trans Am is truly exciting, but here this weekend, they all have one challenge in common. That is a 1.2-mile race course that is very tight and very tough. Let's take a look at it.
And this race course, Paul, is located literally within the shadow of downtown Dallas. Just behind the Cotton Bowl Stadium, you see there, is what they call Fair Park, the home of the Texas State Fair.
And this circuit actually shares part of what is the old Formula One circuit from the Grand Prix held here several years ago. 2 turns and 1 straightaway. It's very tight, very short, 1.2 miles around, 9 turns. But the good news is that it's also very wide. Now, Chris Neifel, in his Porsche, carries one of our onboard cameras and took us for a ride around this brand new track.
And like all the temporary or street circuits, this racetrack is lined with concrete barriers. It's a very safe track for driver and fan alike.
It does have a number of different pavement changes, from asphalt to concrete, and that's a question mark that all the people are asking about tires when they run today. Now, the straightaway, which is very short, runs down to the first turn, and what they call turn 2, though from the driver's point of view, I think you'll find it's really one turn with 2 apexes. Here we take a look coming down the straightaway. You can see how short it is. Then Chris Neifel drifts out to the right, now into turn 1, apexes the first part, straightens out a bit, grabs a gear, and then through what is turn 2. That's turn 3, lying just ahead. And 3 is part of a series combination. 3, a short straight, then a right angle turn to the left, up over a small rise as they make the approach to turn number 5.
Turn number 5 is off camber, the opposite of banking. It falls away from the car. Then a quick straightaway up to the right-hand turn number 6.
And turn number 3 is, again, we ride with Chris Neifel, a right angle to the right, a little tight. He grabs a gear on this short straightaway. Most of the cars are really only using the top 2 gears. Then back into this sweeping left-hand turn, up over a rise, chock the brakes, and take it down into turn number 5. Then this is an approach that gives you a good lineup to pass, because turn 6 is a good position to pass. You can duck inside someone just before this right-hander.
Turn number 7 here at the bottom of your screen is that kind of sweeping left-hander, then a quick little jaunt up through a dogleg into turn number 8, which is basically a hairpin turn.
Turn 8 is also where the pit entrance is, but if you stay on the track, it's down a short piece of straightaway to a right-hander that sweeps around back onto the pit straight through turn number 9.
And you notice how loose this car is. Chris really fighting the wheel as he negotiates turn number 7, now up and through this dogleg right here and onto turn number 8, the left-hander.
Turn 8, you yank the car all the way around, come as far down in the gears as you can. Then again, a short little piece of straightaway and a sweeper onto the pit straight or the main straight. Here, if you look to the right, you'll get the signal from your crewman, tell you how fast or how slow you might have gone.
Our thanks to Chris Neifel, the Bruce Jenner Racing Team, for taking us on a wonderful ride around this 1.2-mile course for the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas.
It's really a sharp little race course and takes advantage of some terrain rises, some elevation drops, and they've done a nice job utilizing the land that they have here for this circuit. Now, the command to start engines has been given. The field is rolling away on the front row. Walter Rural, his first Trans Am, alongside Willie Ribbs, a longtime veteran.
Paul Gentilozzi in row number 2, who won the first Trans Am of the year in Long Beach. Hurley Haywood alongside him, another one of the highly touted Audis. Scott Pruett, the series champion in a Ford product, starting back in 6th. There's Paul Newman, the always powerful Nissan. He's in row number 5.
In the 7th row, Jerry Brasfield in that Chevrolet operation. He's the father of Darren Brasfield, who's starting up in row number 4. Row 9, Deborah Gregg and Lynn St. James will start side by side in this race. So that will make for an interesting combination as well. They are running as teammates. Jerry Clinton in row 12. I shared a 24-hour car with him. Bruce Nesbitt, really an underrated driver. He's quite skillful, and we expect a great deal more out of him.
It's a very crowded racetrack with 37 starters out heating up their tires right now. And to cover the action today, we have 19 cameras, including 2 onboard cameras. This is the number 7 Oldsmobile of Paul Gentilozzi. Gentilozzi starts in the 3rd spot, perfectly positioned to give us an awfully good view in the early going. Now, our second onboard camera you've already seen, and that is Chris Neifel in the turbo Porsche number 11, starting back in the 12th spot.
The focus of the fans here, though, is the new all-wheel drive Audis making their appearance in the Trans Am. Many feel if they're going to win, this is the circuit they can do it on. They have the pole, and earlier, Steve talked with the driver.
Well, Paul, the driver who best mastered this racetrack in qualifying is West German Walter Rural in the number 14 Audi Quattro. Now, believe it or not, this has the configuration of a 4-door sedan and carries many of the qualities of the world beater Audi rally cars. In fact, Walter is a world championship rally driver. One of those qualities is all-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, if you will. First of all, Walter, congratulations sitting on the pole. And how important is the all-wheel drive to your success here?
I think that is the main reason for us that we are so fast. It is a racetrack he's made for our car.
And you can pass maybe where 2-wheel drive cars cannot pass?
Yeah, and we can brake later. And I think during race our tires will stay a longer time.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
You know, a lot of money has been spent on the development of these Audi cars, both rally and road race. Some people say as much as maybe $8 million. Starting alongside Walter is a team that operates on a significantly smaller budget. Right, Paul Page?
Well, Steve, if on the pole you're talking gigantic euro dollars, perhaps you have the exact opposite on the outside of the front row. This car, of course, is a Camaro. It's really a privateer operation out of Lindley Racing. They're depending on the driving skill of this man, Willy T. Ribbs. Willie, how do you take on this giant car alongside?
With a heavy right foot, like I've always done. It's not going to be who goes fast in qualifying. It's going to be the man who can hang in there the longest, keep his tires, don't crash, don't run into any trouble. If that happens, we're going to be some bad hombres.
Tight little course, very hot day. You got to be in top shape, but you are.
You know, everybody knows that I'm one of the best, if not the best conditioned driver in the world, so I'll be ready to go the distance. The car holds, tire holds, we're going to be tough.
When he comes out of his shell, that man is going to be something. At the end of the first pace lap, car number 70, Steve Petty, is pulled into the pit. But before doing so, left all of this oil in turn number 8. That's going to delay the start of this race. For more on this story, let's go to Paul.
Well, Steve, it's not even a start for Steve Petty as they've pushed him out of the pits and to the side. Steve, what was the problem? I know you're terribly disappointed.
Yeah, we only got 1 lap in at Long Beach because of a gearbox. And I was just heating the tires up, not paying attention, worrying about 1 lap. And just drove into the wall. Just got a little sideways and drove into the wall.
And the crew can't do anything about it.
We have to take the green. We could fix it, but they won't let us run unless we take the green. So we came out again a second time with a real bad start.
Sorry to see you out, but we know you'll come back strong. Steve Petty.
Thank you.
Well, obviously, Paul, when Steve Petty hit the wall, he broke something that caused a tremendous amount of oil to be dumped down in turn number 8. Now, the cars are still circulating around this track, but the race technically has started. Even though we have not seen the green flag, we're still under yellow. The start of the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas is underway, and on the pole is Walter Röhrl, a name not that familiar to American motorsports fans. In Europe, he is a legend, the Babe Ruth of rallying.
He is incredibly good behind the wheel. Well, a further problem now being reported. There's the 88 Corvette of Darren Brasfield, scheduled to start in 8th place. Obviously not under power. They're trying to get it back to the pit. So hopefully we'll have a start when we come back at the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas.
Brought to you by Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference.
Why does the championship-winning Toyota Celica race on Goodyear Eagles? Exclusively because of the Goodyear Eagle contact patch and how it responds to the track. And why does Toyota choose Goodyear Eagle street radials for every new Supra Turbo? A major reason is the Goodyear Eagle contact patch, where the car ultimately responds to the road. Goodyear Eagles, because there really is a difference.
Kathy Durham looks cool under pressure. But just because her blouse is dry doesn't mean she smells good. Because Underarm odor is invisible, she needs Sure Roll-On. Sure helps protect against wetness and kills bacteria that cause odor. So, Kathy, why go to school with a dry blouse and a false sense of security? Tomorrow, use Sure Roll-On and be just as sure about odor as you are about wetness.
Thanks.
She ran her first rally at 22. At 29, she was a champion, with victories worldwide. And though Michelle Mouton has gone from rally champion to mother, one thing hasn't changed. She still drives an Audi. They say the car you drive says a lot about you, but we think the kind of people who drive our cars says a lot about Audi. When you're ready to follow your own road, you're ready for an Audi.
In Ricky Rudd's high-torque V8, clean-running Quaker State with QSX provides unbeatable protection from wear and tear.
And the oil that protects my car on the track is the same oil you buy right off the shelf.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
You're watching TNN.
We're still awaiting a green flag for the GP of Big D, the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas. And the featured event, the SCCA Trans Am Sedan Championship. The pace car is now off the racetrack. We may get a start. Remember, some oil was dumped down. The race actually started under yellow. We're looking for a racing green flag, riding with Paul Gentilozzi back in that 3rd spot. No, Steve Salmon, the starter, says, I don't like the looks of it. Quite frankly, I don't either. 37 cars on the racetrack with a lot of separation between them. Really, these drivers were not quite lined up for a fitting start to a very important motor race. Also, 2 cars have already fallen out of this race, and Paul Page is down at the pit area right now with the story on one of those drivers.
Here's another man also disappointed very early on. Darren Brasfield, what happened?
Well, I was just warming it up, bringing the car up to temperature, transmission and everything, and we came around down into this first turn, and the motor just shut off. So I coasted and flipped all the switches back on again, trying to reset the system, and it lit off again, and then it just died immediately after that. So I think we have something in the electrical system that's wrong.
That big giant V8, 5.5 liters, you have any idea what's wrong?
Well, I don't know exactly. I don't think the motor's broke because it just shut off and it was running, it was running at the time. So I feel that, we have a battery, dead battery or something like that, all the starting and stopping, the delays and everything that went on.
Well, your crew wants you down the pits. Maybe there's some good news for you.
Yeah.
They've told him they decided to switch him over to the backup car and put him back in the race. Steve?
Well, that should be interesting news to his dad, Jerry, who's out there in that Camaro and thinks he's going to drive this Trans Am race. Paul, I believe we're ready for a start. The field is in much better order than it was the lap before. Riding with Paul Gentilozzi, the yellow car in front, that's Willy T. Ribs. On the inside, that's the pole sitter in the Audi Quattro, Walter Röhrl.
Now we watch for the starter. Steve Salmon checks them over once again, gives them the green flag as Willy Ribbs jumps way out in front. He really got an advantage, anticipated this start. The Audi Rural falls into second place as they go into the first turn. You're riding with the 11th place car. That's Rick Ware in 10th position. Car number 52 running just ahead. They come off of the second turn, make that right-hand turner down into number 3. Now, Chris Neifel begins to accelerate. Can he come alongside? No, the acceleration is similar. Scotty Pruett makes a move on Herb Hare, that dark blue number 1 machine, and Scotty Pruett, the defending SCCA Escort Trans Am champion, drops into 4th place.
And here's Paul Gentilozzi in 3rd. He doesn't want to lose sight of Willy T. Ribbs and Walter Rule up in front of him in 1st and 2nd. The Chevrolet Camaro from Anaheim, California, now out ahead of the Audi Quattro. Willy T. Ribbs, here's Gentilozzi again, and they are kind of stretching that out on him, Paul.
Well, you can definitely see how 1st and 2nd place, Willy Ribbs and Walter Rural are pulling away from the 3rd place car. Here, we're back at the front of the field again. I'll tell you, Steve, it's a real surprise, though perhaps it shouldn't be. I really expected Rural to jump into the lead, as he's going to try Willy Ribbs in the first turn, but Ribbs isn't going to permit that. I was surprised, but when you think about it, Ribbs really knows how to start these races, and he jumped out in front. Now his job is to make that car just as wide as he can and try and keep Rural behind him. And you can see from Paul Gentilozzi's car, that's exactly what he's doing. Willy back and forth across the course. Rural's got to be saying, whoa, where am I going to get around him?
Well, when you start the Paris to Dakar rally, it really doesn't matter if you're a couple of seconds late. Here in a 125-mile race, it can be everything. That's right, I said 125 miles. 100 miles is the usual standard Trans Am distance. But remember, we're in Texas where things are bigger. That is going to require a fuel stop. In fact, it is a mandatory stop somewhere within this race. It's up to the crews to determine where.
And the crews have to deal with several other factors. One, the Brassfield crew deciding if that fuel stop is when they will change drivers. Also, if they go to a full course yellow, they've told the crew chiefs that they will close the pits for 1 lap, and then you can come in refuel, but you will not be able to change tires on a full course yellow. And that is a probability here today because of the tight circuit. Now the battle from 1st through 4th has tightened down. It is still Willy T. Ribbs, the leader, followed by Walter Rural, then Paul Gentilozzi, and Scott Pruett is right up and knocking on the back door of Gentilozzi.
Gentilozzi, Paul, really showing a lot of talent in only his 2nd year in the Trans Am Series. Before, he was in the Kelly American Series. Before that, he was a pro stock drag racer. Right now, there's no drag racing involved in these short straightaways. And here's the race for 7th position. And there's 4 cars there. Les Lindley in the number 8 yellow Camaro. The car owner also for Willy T. Ribbs. Paul Newman right behind him. The 2nd car in front of Chris Neifel, we're seeing right now. And between them is Jim Durhag, the number 40 Chevrolet, a Trans Am regular.
Chris Neifel now with Durhag as his objective. That's that white car just in front. As the 11 machine of Chris Neifel closes down, Neifel tries him. The 40 car holds him off. Durhag, though, is very aware that Neifel is right behind him. You can see the torque of that Durhag machine pulling him away, and the Neifel comes on with turbocharged power and is able to catch right back up. But Chris Neifel seems to be grabbing at the wheel quite a bit as he tries inside Durhag, and Chris Neifel moves into 9th place. But Steve, he is really fighting that machine.
Yes, he is, Paul, more so than he should be. It doesn't look like the car is all that loose. There may be some kind of a steering problem there. But I tell you, he is certainly able to pass with it at this stage of the ball game anyway.
So Chris Neifel has moved up 3 positions since the start and now runs in 9th place.
You know, there's several different driving styles going on out there depending on what kind of an engine situation you have. With the turbo cars, they're using a lot of gear shifting. With the big normally aspirated V8s and V6s, maybe only 2 or 3 gears being used. And here's the race, the top 4. The yellow car out in front with Willy T. Ribbs. Walter Rules from West Germany in the 2nd spot. The red and white number 7 car, that is Gentilozzi. And here is Scott Pruett in that kind of strange V8-powered XR4 TI.
Back on board now with Paul Gentilozzi. You can see the battle for the lead in front of him. That yellow car is Willy T. Ribbs, Walter Rural just behind. I think what Rural is doing is just trying to get his feet under him.
Well, Scott Pruett, Paul, appears to have his feet firmly planted. He's just behind this man and putting on the pressure in the hybrid blue number 1 car. And here is Pruett. Can he make it work on the inside? You bet. Scott Pruett goes into the 3rd position with that powerful Ford V8, the V6 engine, and Paul Gentilozzi's car. Well, he had to give way.
So Scotty Pruett moves up into third place, still trailing, though, the leaders, Willy Ribbs, followed by Walter Rule. And you see from Paul Gentilozzi's car, he's not giving up. He comes in right behind Scotty. Perhaps he can take advantage of this position, watch Scotty Pruett, and learn how he drives the circuit. Now the battle for 7th place. That was the number 8 car of Les Lindley through first, and then the 33 machine of Paul Newman, with Chris Neifel, who has been working his way, literally carving his way up through this field, now challenging Paul Newman, and Neifel forces Newman to the outside and gets by.
I'll tell you, Paul Newman right now would trade a truckload of salad dressing for a straightaway where he could use the power of that Nissan. He just can't do it here.
And Chris Neifel has a great run going as he is cutting his way up through the field. Willy Ribbs is our leader at the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas. We'll be back.
Racing on the water, just you and me. Running wild, running free. Run, 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 Kawasaki.
Jet Ski Watercraft by Kawasaki. The ultimate water pistol.
Fly across the water on a jumping jet. Kawasaki gets the good times wet. Fun, 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 Kawasaki.
See your local Kawasaki dealer today.
It's showtime in the fast lane. Time for jet cars, monster trucks, car-crushing tanks, quarter-mile wheel standers, all in one incredible metal-mangling, flame-throwing 45-minute video extravaganza called Show and Go. Let Diamond P Video launch you headlong into the thrill-a-minute world of auto racing's finest exhibition and stunt drivers. Trucks the size of apartment buildings, flattening helpless cars into useless piles of scrap. See the school bus meltdown as a jet dragster turns it into a smoldering lump of molten junk. Wheel standers, front wheels dancing 6 feet in the air at over 140 miles per hour. The Little Red Wagon, Roger Gustin's Lava Machine, the Green Mob, Ed Jones' Jolly Rancher Stagecoach. Motorsport's most entertaining exhibitionists and daredevils in one giant video explosion. Diamond P Show and Go. To get your copy of Show and Go, call 1-800-826-2000 or send a check or money order to this address. Show and Go, just $19.95 plus $3.50 shipping and handling. Visa and MasterCard accepted. Please specify VHS or Beta. It's showtime in the fast lane. Call 1-800-826-2000 now.
The snow this winter may have looked beautiful, but underneath, something was growing. Something was waiting for the spring. Potholes. That's why CarQuest Auto Parts stores are having their biggest sale of the year on shock absorbers, such as the PV Gas Bruiser for trucks, vans, and four-wheel drive vehicles, and the PV Gas XD for all cars, domestic or imported, at shocking low prices for a limited time only at CarQuest Auto Parts stores.
We're back at the SCCA Escort Trans Am, the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas. Here's the top 5. Now, Willy Ribbs has had the lead right from the green flag. The bottom half of the top 10, well, there's been some great fighting between 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th place.
And the Sports Car Club of America, Paul, has really established some parity as far as the manufacturers are concerned. In the top 5, there are 4 different makes and models. And still a ferocious battle up front between Willy T. Ribbs in the yellow Camaro, Walter Rule in the Audi. That 00 car is a lap machine. That is Paul Romano. He is not in the 3rd spot. That still belongs to Scott Pruett, who's just out of our picture here. He has fallen back a bit. You heard Walter Rule earlier talk about the four-wheel drive aspect of that Audi, able to take some different lines, maybe brake a little bit later. But so far, he seems content here to follow Willy T. Ribbs around in almost exactly the same line. Willy T. Ribbs driving for all he's worth in that Les Lindley young Camaro from Anaheim, California. You wonder if Walter Rule isn't thinking, okay, Willie, you just go out there and drive all the rubber off of those tires, and when you do, this West German is just going to take over the lead. The Quattro is a very interesting automobile, as Paul Page found out earlier.
One of the most unusual additions to the Trans Am this year are the 2 new Audis driven by Hurley Haywood and Walter Rule. Now, most Trans Am cars begin life as a frame that they later add skin to. These cars are really very much off the showroom floor with the framing added in after they are constructed. But what makes them very unusual is up front. Take a look here. The engine is a 5-cylinder inline engine. Now, the engineers say that 5 cylinders run smoother but develops just as much torque as a 6-cylinder or an 8-cylinder engine. What makes it even more unusual is the fact that it's an all-wheel drive situation, with the gearbox and the differential for the front wheels right behind the engine and power applied to all 4 wheels. Now, what that does do is force the weight of the engine very far forward. but still, with power to all four wheels, they are extremely efficient in the corners. In fact, the driver, if he gets in a compromising position running alongside another car, can just simply replace this car wherever he wants to. And they're very fast off the turns.
As we see right here with Walter Rurl, the number 14 Audi, still in that second spot. Willy T. Ribbs continues to lead as he has from the very outset of this Trans Am race. And Paul, I don't believe that Walter is truly using everything that car has.
No, he's driving a very conservative race, especially if you look at Willy Ribbs, who is throwing the back end around, pitching the car, diving down into the corners, throwing it, coming off. And then look at the 14 car. Look, Scotty Pruett, the number 1 car, is being pushed off the course as the leaders go past. So Scotty Pruett with a serious problem. He was running in third. And for a race that's really only a few laps old, we're seeing a lot of attrition, surprisingly, with the defending Trans Am champion. Now, we talked about Brassfield's problem. Let's go to Steve.
Well, Darren Brassfield is obviously disappointed, but not any more than Tommy Morrison that owns the team. Tommy, what happens now?
What we're going to do, we're going to bring in Darren's daddy, Jerry, and we're going to put Darren in the Camaro.
What happened to the Corvette?
We're not sure right now, but something electrical evidently happened.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Paul, the plan is to make it a productive pit stop, that mandatory stop when they have to bring the car in for fuel anyway. That's when Darren Brassfield, already wearing his helmet, will get in. Paul has the story on Scott Pruett.
Well, here's Scotty Pruett. He just pulled the helmet off. Scotty, that looked like a real sudden onset, like you just had a problem on the main straightaway. What was it?
Well, what happened is we were having problems with the XR14 a little earlier in practice with the engine. They kind of did a makeshift fix of the engine, which wasn't going to cut it. So the engine was kind of running okay at the start, and just kind of got softer and softer as we went along.
There it is, Steve, the defending Trans Am champion, out very early on here in Dallas.
And he was on the move until those motor problems set in. Up front, well, nothing's really changed in the last couple of laps. It is still Willy T. Ribbs out there in that Camaro. Appears to be driving the wheels up, and something he really doesn't want to do. Walter Rurl sitting back there, as before, just kind of watching Willy drive around.
And when you watch these two cars, now look as they go into this corner. Willy's darts around a little bit. Rurl is like it's on rails. And then when he hits the power, he takes right off. Battle for 8th right now. Paul Newman, as he closes down behind the white number 40 machine of Jim Durhag. Now remember, Newman, the turbo-powered Nissan, is really at a disadvantage on this short course. They've shortened the gears up as much as they can, but that turbo power is not really available to Newman. And so if you're talking him against a normally aspirated car, theoretically, the normally aspirated should have some advantage.
Well, at Long Beach, Paul, with a long straightaway, Newman was only a couple of miles an hour slower than the Indianapolis cars. That's how much power that machine could develop.
Well, and remember from our show at Brainerd, the tremendous straightaway speed, over 170 miles an hour, that this Nissan is capable of. But on a short course like this, a decided disadvantage. Now you're riding on board with Paul Gentilozzi, the number 7 Oldsmobile. He is in 3rd place. He moved up to 3rd as a result of Scott Pruett's falling out of the field. Paul Gentilozzi really new to the series, and earlier Steve took a look at this Oldsmobile.
The opening race of this year's Trans Am Series saw a new face atop the winner's stand, that of Paul Gentilozzi, the driver of the number 7 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. And believe me, he has not yet touched back down to earth. Now, you'd think a guy who just won his first race wouldn't change a thing, wouldn't touch that winning combination. They've made a big change. They've taken out the V8 engine that won at Long Beach and installed a V6. Now, this is going to cost them about 100 horsepower, but also the car will be about 200 pounds lighter. And with the tight turns and the almost non-existent straightaways, they feel that's all the power they need anyway. And consider that with the V6, they're still running the same big brakes and the same big tires they had at Long Beach. And Paul says that this all has to do with his chicken bone theory. Says that every driver in his right foot has a chicken bone, and that determines where he gets off the throttle and onto the brakes going into the turns. He says with this lighter car and the smaller motor, his chicken bone is going to go a lot deeper into those turns.
Well, you know, Steve, with the new telemetry on these cars, that chicken bone theory can be tested. There are a lot of drivers who tell you, oh, I'm flat foot all the way through here. But then when you get the telemetry and read it out, you find out there was a little what we call an apprehension lift, where he pulled off maybe for half a second, got mad at himself, and slammed it right back down. Now, Gentilozzi is involved in a battle for 3rd place because right behind is the 44 car. And look at Gentilozzi as he ricochets off the wall on the pit straight. Gentilozzi Gentilozzi tapping that wall, and Hurley Haywood, the 44 machine, the Audi, goes into third place.
Well, I think Gentilozzi's chicken bone went to sleep on him there for just an instant, Paul, because, oh, and he's out of control one more time. There are some problems with the number 7 Oldsmobile. He is slowing dramatically now. Hurley Haywood takes over second place decisively. Let's take one more look at the number 7 car here. Paul Gentilozzi, as he gets extremely out of shape and tags the wall on the left-hand side.
Coming off of turn number 9 onto the straight, the course just got too narrow for Gentilozzi's exit. He got the back end up into the wall, and that was a good enough hit that it's hard to believe that there wasn't further damage to that car that is now causing his handling problems. A flat tire alone would do it. We'll be back and find out what's wrong with Paul Gentilozzi right after this.
NASCAR Update, brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. Through the first 9 events on NASCAR's tough Winston Cup Tour, 7 different drivers have registered victories, making for a diverse group of money winners, with the top 10 drivers having collectively won nearly $2.2 million. Here are the latest Winston Cup point standings. And now this.
The big Q stands for quality. In Quaker State's 11,000 RPM Porsche, in Ricky Rudd's high-torque Buick, clean-running Quaker State with QSX gives them unbeatable protection from wear and tear.
And it's the same Quaker State you buy right off the shelf.
Quaker State, the big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Quaker State leads the pack again. Introducing the Easy Flow bottle. It pours smoother than other leading oils. Quaker State, unbeatable protection in a better pouring bottle. No one else has it.
Weekdays, there's something for everyone on TNN. Catch the hottest new videos. Follow the comings and goings of your favorite stars. Meet tomorrow's talented newcomers. You can even get tips on how to put more life in your lifestyle, with some help from the experts on TNN's entertaining and informative American magazine. And if you're into stargazing, then you're in the right place, because when Ralph Emery rolls out the welcome mat, the stars really shine on Nashville Now. Something for everyone. A good reason why more people are watching TNN. At Nashville's Fan Fair, the stars do more than sing. They go all out in athletic competition in the All-American Country Games. Each June, you can see your favorite recording artists as they battle to the bitter end for the glory of their team. You'll also see the stars in 30 hours of concerts, plus exhibits and the Grandmasters Fiddling Championship. For information, write Fan Fair, 2804 Opryland Drive, Nashville, Tennessee, 37214, or call 615-889-7503.
Want to save 20% on the most musical, memorable vacation of your life? Order the Opryland USA Passport. For just $51.50, you get 3 glorious days of music and excitement at Opryland Park, a cruise aboard the mighty General Jackson showboat, a matinee performance of the one and only Grand Ole Opry, and much, much more. To order, have your credit card handy and call 1-615-889-6611. Get the Opryland USA Passport and save 20% at Opryland, America's musical showplace.
The Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas continues here at Fair Park. I'm Steve Evans along with Paul Page, and the cars of the SCCA Escort Trans Am still look basically the same as when we left. Willy T Ribs on top in the Camaro, Walter Rural behind him in the Audi. Hurley Haywood now makes it Audi's second and third. Rounding out the top 10 is Jerry Brassfield, but that Camaro is expected in at the pit stop for a driver change. His son Darren should go in the automobile.
Now, Willie Ribbs is having to deal with Bruce Nesbitt in the number 50 car. Lap traffic. Nesbitt moves to the outside, and Ribbs and Rural continue on their battle for the lead.
Nesbitt knew both those drivers were there. He knew they were fighting for the lead and did a good job of staying out of their way. We heard Willie early on talking about how he's the best conditioned driver out there. Well, maybe, but Walter Rural would argue with that. Rural recently entered his first ever bicycle race, a 60-miler, and finished second against international competition. You know, those tubs, they float people in to determine body fat. Walter Rural would just sink to the bottom because he doesn't have any. So, man, you couldn't drive a nail into the hide of that internationally famous rally driver. Bit of fire out of the exhaust of the Audi. That's normal. They're turbocharged cars. Some raw fuel occasionally comes up. Into the pits comes the number 7 Oldsmobile that banged the wall so hard in turn number 9.
And here is that number 7 car of Paul Gentilozzi as the crew hops around to the far side of the machine and takes a look at what damage occurred when he brushed it up against the wall on the main straightaway. Gentilozzi sits rather calmly in the cockpit as he watches the crew to do their job. This is, of course, the only time that he really has an opportunity to rest. The jacks now under the left side of the car. Bob Anderson, one of the SCCA officials, checking the machine to make sure that it's ready to go back into action as they take a look now down at the front of the machine as well. And Paul Gentilozzi shuts the engine down. This is going to be a rather lengthy stop. Steve?
Don't you know Gentilozzi would like to get back out into this Trans Am competition? He can't win it at this point, but he could still score some points to go with all the points he got at Long Beach. The race for the lead continues. There's the Audi, Walter Rural, West Germany, car number 14, a car length or so behind Willy T. Ribs in the Camaro. Ooh, Willie loose there. Here in the 5th position, car number 11, the Porsche 944 of Chris Neifel. In front of him is Irv Hare, who's running 4th in the number 15 Oldsmobile. And look how hard all these drivers now, Paul, are working. The track is becoming more and more treacherous with every lap.
Well, Chris Neifel's having a nice little run here. Remember, he started back in 12th position, so he's moved up 7 and is knocking on the back door of Irv Hare. Really, this car, that's a surprising run because, again, the turbocharged power, it really ought not to pay off here. But Chris is giving the car a nice ride, and Irv Hare is definitely worried about it.
And Paul, talking about the racetrack again, you remember a couple of years ago, the Formula One cars ran part of this circuit. The asphalt came apart that day. It's doing a little of that today. Not quite as bad, but the marbles are starting to build.
Well, those are the reports in from the corner stations. Another factor here, too, I think is going to definitely play into the day is driver fatigue because they're constantly turning. There is no real opportunity for them to sit and rest like there are on tracks with long, high-speed straightaways. Really, 2 places in the track, if any, where they can just relax the grip on the wheel for a moment. That contributes to fatigue, and fatigue contributes to mistakes.
And no better example of how hard these men and women are working than you see Chris Neifel about to wear the steering wheel off the shaft on that particular Porsche. Just incredible.
He is definitely very busy. Down to the gear shift, seesawing through that box as now he tries to get outside Irv Hare, but he's blocked by Bruce Nesbitt. Nesbitt had nowhere to go, and it was really not the best piece of judgment by Neifel, as now he has to dart back in. You can see he's lost some inches, and those are inches that he worked very hard for. Now, back to the leaders, and the leaders are now having to fight with some lap traffic. It's really a battle for 12th that the leaders are working their way between.
And it's a tough situation for everybody. Deborah Gregg in the black number 3 car, she does not want to give up 12th to Lynn St. James because she moved over for the leaders. So what does she do? St. James in the number 2 car, 72 George Robinson in that white machine, and 16 Mike Giasuli. He is in the 15th spot, also in the white car. The lap traffic sometimes, Paul, they're in the way, but they don't mean to be.
I'll tell you, this has got to make Willy Ribs nervous, though, because he knows that all one of those cars in front of him has to do is falter, and Rural is going to be all over him. Already, Rural has taken advantage of these slower cars in front of Ribs and moved up right behind, so he is right in attack position now. And if Willy Ribs drops the ball on either side, then Rural goes in on him.
Well, Willie just dribbled the ball inside Lynn St. James. Actually, she went wide to let him get through it. Now, Deborah Gregg in the black number 3 car is the next machine that Willie has got to get around. Now, Walter Rural, he's back there having exactly the same problem.
Yeah, he definitely got caught by Lynn St. James. I think probably Lynn, more familiar with the Lindley racing car that Willy Ribs is in, saw it, said that's probably a leader, moved over, and forgot that maybe second place was sitting right on top. She also didn't have that much room to move over. Now she recognizes a faster car is there, and she tucks out of the way. So now Rural is back in contact with Willy Ribs, and Ribs goes into the first turn inside Deborah Gregg, who wisely stays out of the way while Rural comes through as well. So now the lead still is a fight, but Walter Rural, what he gained in lap traffic, was suddenly lost when he tangled with Lynn St. James. And the short distance of this course is forcing them to come through the back markers that much sooner. So Rural and Ribs in the lead, but Rural is right behind him. The number 9 car, that's Jerry Clinton. He's obviously had contact with someone on the course. We've seen some other cars with marks on the side as well. But what about the tactics of the crews? Now, every car in this race will have to make a fuel stop, so the pit stop strategy is critical. Steve has been checking.
Well, Paul, out on the pit wall, you're seeing Bob Tullius on the right there without the hat, checking on the progress of Walter Rule and Hurley Haywood in the Audis. Now, I asked Bob Tullius about the mandatory pit stop. Let's remember that they do things big in Texas. So this race is a little longer than your average Trans Am. There is a mandatory pit stop. The strategy for the Audi team is this, and they feel it's about the same for everybody. No sense pitting until 20 laps because the car wouldn't hold the required amount of fuel to finish the race. After 20 laps, you look for a full course yellow, but they can be few and far between in road racing. If you get one, you take that opportunity to come in and get some gasoline. Now, if you don't get that, you wait to the very last minute, just before the car runs out of fuel, you come in, splash and dash, and try to finish the race. That's the way it should work.
Well, the overall lap speeds have been dropping just a bit owing to the deteriorating condition on the race course as Willie Ribbs continues to try to hold off Walter Rural. The 87 car is Jerry Brassfield, currently running in 10th. They started 13th with this machine, but remember, Jerry's son, Darren Brassfield, is scheduled to take the car over when they stop the car for fuel. Right now, Brassfield set up just in front of Willy T. Ribbs, and you saw Ribbs as he darted right in under it. Paul Newman into the tire barriers. The number 33 machine into those old tires stacked in front of the concrete wall to protect the driver on an impact. Well, Paul's trying to get the car started, but that probably has caused some rather serious damage to the front end.
Well, the attitude of the front wheels indicate the car just kind of refused to turn left for Paul. But let's take a look at the replay for any conclusive proofs that may be offered. There's Bruce Nesbitt on the inside. Now, he's down in the groove. Paul Newman is out of the groove into what we referred to earlier as the marbles, the loose rubber. And look at that car. It does not want to turn left. It's a push situation. And Newman right into the tire wall. You can see visibly where the black groove is on the racetrack. That's where the traction is, not where Paul was.
And that narrowing groove on the track could affect the rest of this race. We'll be back with more from Dallas right after this.
A less irritating shave. You could go to extraordinary lengths to find one. A shave with not one or two, but 6 rich lubricants. For less razor irritation than any leading brand. You could go to extraordinary lengths for a shave like this. Or you could reach for Edge. 6 lubricant Edge. More lubrication, less irritation.
He got his pilot's license before his driver's license. He flew 325 missions in Vietnam. One ended early. He flew around the world without stopping. And today, Dick Rutan flies around in an Audi. They say the car you drive says a lot about you, but we think the kind of people who drive our cars says a lot about Audi. When you're ready to follow your own road, you're ready for an Audi.
Over 28 million adults get athlete's foot.
I'm Jim Bird. I had athlete's foot until I used NP27. It has an ingredient recommended by doctors.
Look, NP27 stops the burning, itching of athlete's foot fast.
NP27. Nothing's a better cure for athlete's foot.
Hey, Clem, what you doing?
Martha ran into a tree.
Well, how you gonna move it?
Warren wench.
Hey, Clem, what you doing?
And Martha run down the fence.
Well, how you gonna fix it?
Warren wench.
Hey, Clem, what you doing?
And Martha got the car stuck.
Well, how you gonna get it out?
Warren wench.
Warren Wench, less expensive and a lot more versatile than four-wheel drive.
You're watching TNN.
The SCCA Escort Trans Am standings look like this here at Fair Park in Dallas. Willy T. Ribbs in that tough little Camaro still out in front. Walter Rule in the Audi, Hurley Haywood yet another Audi, Neifel in the Porsche, Irv Herron in Oldsmobile. Now the last car still on the lead lap is in the 7th position. Jim Derhack, car number 40. Rick Ware and Jerry Brassfield have fallen back as we last checked on them. They're a lap down. Jerry Brassfield still looking for any excuse to make a pit stop and put his young son in. Willy T. Ribbs still out in front of Walter Rule, and Paul Rule seems content to stay there.
And Ribbs is driving for all he's worth. And Ribbs loses control, taps the wall. Rural goes into the lead. Ribbs slams the throttle back to the floor and goes back in pursuit. But let's take a look at that car. He definitely got it in the wall. Yes, there is damage to the left rear of the machine. But is it superficial damage only to the coachwork, something to the cosmetics? Or is it deeper? Is it into the suspension? It was only the mistake of a microsecond, but it cost Willy Ribbs the lead. Walter Wuerl is now in front in the all-wheel drive Audi.
And all-wheel drive could be the secret to this race, Paul. As the track deteriorates and with the eagerness of Willy T. Ribbs, it was almost inevitable that sooner or later he was going to hit the wall. Here is Paul Gentilozzi headed for the barn. We thank him for carrying our camera in the number 7 Oldsmobile. He is out of this race for good. Just keep remembering Long Beach, Paul. Paul Page has a status report on Paul Newman's situation with Ken Glenn, one of his crewmen.
Well, Paul got it into the wall. Is he talking to you, telling you what he's thinking? Is he going to stay out?
Yes, he's going to stay out. We had a little bit of a push, but he's gathered it back up, and we're all right.
Well, that's the spirit, I'll tell you. What do you anticipate on pit stops for this car?
About what time? We'll be looking at maybe about lap 45 or 50 if we can get a good yellow. But so far, it hasn't happened.
So Steve, Paul Newman stays in the action. Thanks. We know you got work to do.
And he transmitted very exact information. As you saw in our replay of that incident, it was indeed a push situation with the automobile. Now here the third car is Walter Wuerl, the leading Audi. He tries to go inside Jim Derhaag. There is not room. He tags the wall, gives Derhaag a nudge, and alertly goes right into the pit. He'll head down to where the Group 44 team is to try to get some work done on that automobile. And you can see that the left front tire there is actually making contact with the bodywork. That is all the smoke. That is burning rubber.
I think that's great presence of mind, too. He knew exactly where he was on the course. And Deborah Gregg is into the barrier as well. She's just come straight off. That's telling you, Steve, that this course is getting very, very slick. Now, Deborah Gregg trying to back it and pull that machine out of the barrier. Often with these tire walls, if you don't catch them at the wrong angle, you can get the car back into the action. Meanwhile, in the Group 44 pits, they work on the left front of that machine. They don't seem to be too happy with it, but nevertheless, they're going to continue to try and repair Walter Wuerl's car. Now, there's a full course caution now. Yellow flag has come out. The pace car will move onto this circuit and pick up Willy Ribbs, who is now the leader of the race once again, as they've completed work on Walter Wuerl's car, and they're sending him back into the action.
And here is the leader, Willy T. Ribbs, in that yellow Camaro. And as soon as they open that pit gate, Paul explained earlier, the first lap of caution, they don't allow anybody into the pit. But when they open that pit gate, you're going to see a whole lot of business happening here on pit road, because virtually no one has made that mandatory pit stop. Only a few that were forced into the pits with problems. We just saw yet another car parked over in turn number 1. One of the reasons for this full course yellow. Willy T. Ribbs picks up the pace car coming out of turn number 3. And here is Chris Neifel, the big Ferris wheel up there, tells you that he is coming down the main straightaway. This man has just driven his heart out today, and so far it has paid off. He is currently in the 3rd spot, well, partially because of Walter Wuerl heading into the pits. He picked up 1 position there alone.
This yellow comes at a good time. Les Lindley, the number 8 car, Willy Ribbs' teammate, into the pits. And this machine, Paul Newman, the number 33 car. Remember, he's got some damage. Well, you can see it on the front. And the crew's now checking it from that slide that he took into the barrier.
And look at this shot, back over in turn number 8. We referred to marbles. Well, the rubber chunks there are just about the size of marbles. And this track is turned into what they used to say in the roller skating rink called an all-skate. Everybody having problems, no matter who they are, no matter their experience of the type of the car they're in. Well, Paul Newman, the 33 Nissan, headed back out onto the racetrack, and I'm sure Paul trying to do a little attitude adjustment, knowing that you just can't push as hard as you did before. And there is the Camaro of Jerry Brasfield, the number 87 car. His son Darren is crawling in the window. They're trying to get this driver change done as quickly as possible. Good thing it's being done under yellow. The Audi crew is saying, where is Hurley Haywood? He has not yet come in for his splash of gasoline. Let's go to Paul in the Ribbs pit.
Well, as the full course yellow comes out here in the Lindley Racing pits, they are watching the leader, Willy T. Ribbs. Now, he has damage on that car, and this full course yellow will come at a perfect time. They'll slow the field down. They'll be able not only to fuel the car, but also do some work on it, perhaps get it back in full racing trim. Let's watch.
Well, Paul, I don't believe that crew is going to have to wait very long for Mr. Ribbs, because the next time he passes by that pit entrance, here he comes right now behind the pace car. Yeah, Willy T. Ribbs, the leader, car number 80, into the pit, having a problem negotiating that turn into there. There were pieces falling off the car as he made the left turn. That held up the number 40 car, a bit of Jim Derhack. Behind Derhack, there is Hurley Haywood, the number 44 Audi. He is coming in for his mandatory stop. So as we predicted a little bit earlier, the pit road getting very interesting and very busy.
And the race is now in the hands of the pit crew because this man, Hurley Haywood, is now second behind this man, Willie Ribbs.
Well, we know that Hurley Haywood only needs fuel. He has so far been successful at staying away from the wall and other cars. And what a stop. A matter of seconds, put gasoline in the tank. Now, Willie Ribbs, a very quick stop. We anticipated them doing some chassis work or maybe putting a tire or something on that car. But no, Willy T. Ribbs is right back out on the racetrack. He's being held by the red stoplight there until the course is safe to re-enter. And there goes Willy T. Ribbs. He accomplished one thing on that stop. He beat Hurley Haywood in the Audi out of the pit area, and they maintain their position. Right now, let's go down to Paul Page in the Ribbs pit with Pat McFall.
Well, you've refueled, Willie, during that yellow. You still got that damage on one side. You've been on the radio with him. What is he saying about the handling?
Mainly that the racetrack is going away. That neither Les nor Willie thinks new tires would help much. That the racetrack is greasing up quite a bit.
So from now on, from your point of view, it's a run to the checkered?
Hopefully.
And maybe a checkered for you?
Hopefully.
All right,
we could use one.
Well, the rules of this race say you can't change tires under yellow anyway. And obviously, this crew has decided that even when the green comes out, they won't bring those cars in for rubber. They'll just tough it out and hope for some good driving here at the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas. We'll be back.
Every Formula One Ferrari, every Ferrari 328, and every Ferrari Testarossa that comes to America comes on Goodyear Eagles. And only on Goodyear Eagles. Why? Because Mr. Ferrari wants it that way. Goodyear Eagles, Ferrari's choice as America's best tires.
Barbecues with Rich Davis, brought to you by Matchlight, what the pros use.
Now here's a barbecue idea that's going to knock your socks off: grilled shrimp. And best of all, you can whip this one up in just a few minutes.
This is the moment of truth. You're confident as you step up to the mound. They're expecting a squeeze play. But no, because today you're throwing nothing but a strike. Matchlight Real Kingsford Charcoal with just the right amount of lighter fluid already added for perfect lighting every time and surefire delivery to the plate. Matchlight Charcoal from Kingsford, what the pros use.
Now let me tell you about a real crowd pleaser, grilled shrimp. That starts with a great marinade, and all you do is add 2 cups of water, 2 cups of vinegar, about 2 tablespoons of sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, a little red pepper sauce, about a teaspoon, and put them all together. Pour that over the shrimp and refrigerate for an hour or 2. All right, here's my real secret in this recipe, my special basting sauce. Take Dijon mustard, some lime juice, some honey, mix it with a toasted sesame oil, and brother, this is going to be delicious. Now, the easiest way to grill shrimp is to put them on skewers. I basted these on one side and grilled them for 2 minutes. I'm going to baste this side for 2 more minutes. Don't overcook them now, and they're going to be just perfect.
We're back once again under the green flag at the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas. Willie Ribbs is the leader, but his teammate, Les Lindley, really has some serious problems. The whole front end of the car bashed in after contact with the number 16 car of Mike Chiasuli. Now let's watch here. As you can see, both cars running off the edge of the course, and Les just simply center punched Chiasuli as Chiasuli ran off into the barrier. So some extensive work to be done on Les Lindley's car, and I would suspect it's out of the race. Mike Chiasuli, at the same time, well, when he got into the barrier, he has damage now front and rear. Well, it'll take 4 bodymen to put that one back together. Here's the 11 car. That is Chris Neifel. He's trying to get into the pits, but he's got the 9 car, Jerry Clinton, in front of him, trying to wave Clinton out of the way because he has got some body damage to the left rear portion of that Porsche. He'd like to get it repaired. All they're going to try to do here is get the body away from the tire where it doesn't rub on the rubber and cut the tire down. And they're not wasting any time or using any particular finesse in making that happen. They just ripped apart a $200,000 Porsche and sent Chris Neifel back out
First was in the 4th position when he came into the pits for that surgery, and now has lost a couple of those spots as he re-enters the racetrack. A very scary racetrack at this moment. The instant the green came out a few laps ago, the crashing began again. It's going to take an awful lot of good sense on the part of the drivers to prevent any more of it. What's left of Les Lindley's cars in the pits?
Well, the Les Lindley car, you can see they're doing some substantial work, and once they get the body work off and take a look at the front end, the decision made visually for you. Oil all over the front of the engine, coolant being sprayed all back. This car definitely done for the day as Les Lindley climbs out of the cockpit.
Well, Lindley right now glad that he's got a 2-car team, and certainly happy that his driver, Willy T. in the 80 Camaro, is right now out in front of Hurley Haywood in the number 44 Jaguar. And here is Deborah Gregg. The whole front end is gone off of that XR4 Ti, and she is being retired for the day. And here is the race for the lead. It is Willy T. Ribbs in the yellow number 80 Camaro. In the 44 Audi, that is Hurley Haywood. Irv Hare comes through there in the 15 Oldsmobile. He's in the 3rd spot. Here's how it sets up. Willy T. on top, followed by Hurley, then Irv Hare. Chris Neifel has regained that 4th position. And how about Walter Rule? With all his problems in the 14 Audi, he still is hanging on tenaciously to that 5th spot. Paul Newman is back now at 6th. He's had his problems as well.
And Darren Brassfield, now relieving his father, is driving in 7th position in that number 87 machine. You know, this course has got to drive you nuts as a driver. You get on the concrete, the tire is gripped, the car handles, does what it's supposed to do. But you get on sections like this where there's asphalt, it's all marbled up with a rubber, it's oily, and it's incredibly slick. They say the groove is just getting narrower and narrower.
And right now, Willy T. Ribbs has got to be remembering the drivers' meeting when this man, Hurley Haywood, very confidently, not cockily, said, boys, there's a good chance I'm going to win this race this afternoon. Just kind of show me where the winner's circle is. And let's remember that it is him that Audi's hopes right on for a championship. He's their driver. He'll be in every Trans Am race. However, the number 14 Audi is being shared by several West German drivers. Here it's Walter Rule. At Long Beach a few weeks ago, it was the great Hans Stuck. Now, another 2-car team in operation, of course, is Willy T. Ribbs and Les Lindley. Paul is with Les.
Les, you got to be terribly disappointed. What happened there?
Oh, Kasui and there's another back marker were sitting there, and they were bumping each other, trying to go by, and I was standing coming up on him, and he slammed his brakes on, and I had no place to go.
Well, the good news is that at least your other car is in very good position right now.
Yeah, that's good. And, you know, maybe we'll get something out of it. I was hoping for a win, just serving the car, just playing it cool.
Great disappointment. We wish you better luck in the future, my friend.
Thank you.
And here's the race that Les Lindley will be watching. We're all watching. Hurley Haywood trying to take the lead from Willy T. Ribbs. Willie in the 80 yellow Camaro. Hurley Haywood in that all-wheel drive Audi. And so far, Paul, we haven't seen the drivers really use that quality in the car. Hurley starting to, taking a different line.
Well, if he's going to do it, it's going to have to happen back here on the concrete. They can't race once they make the turn onto the asphalt. The only place the cars are working is back through here. Haywood knows that. Now he comes up single file behind Willy T. Ribbs because they're back onto the old Formula One circuit, the old asphalt section, and there's just no traction to get around. Haywood uses this to move into position, take advantage of the all-wheel drive, and hope that when he gets back into a section where he can really do some maneuvering, he may attack Willy Ribbs.
Let's not forget the man riding in 3rd place in the 15 Oldsmobile. That is Irv Hare. He is so smooth, so disciplined. We tend to sometimes forget he's out there, and he's doing a brilliant job.
Staying right in contact with the leader's very smart run. Perhaps the best run of the day is this man. He started in 12th. He's now running in 4th. Chris Neifel. By the way, you like all this, you want to become part of it, anywhere from a course marshal, one of the stewards of the meeting, or an SCCA driver. If you'd like to be a member of the SCCA, the Sports Car Club of America, there's the number. Give them a call. You'll enjoy membership in the SCCA.
Chris Neifel is a member. You can bet on that. And right now he is closing on number 33, Paul Newman. That's a car just up in front of him. The machine we've talked about that has such awesome power but can't really use it all here. And Neifel just blows right by him.
Yeah, no factor at all, but I think Paul's having more than a few problems as he heads off into the pits. Remember, he's been into the tire barrier once and dinged up the front end of that machine, and you don't know what the residual of that is. Did it get into the suspension? Is it causing a problem with the motor? So Paul Newman heads down to his pits, and we'll be back with more from the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas.
American Sports Cavalcade takes you trackside for supercharged action at the Memphis International Motorsports Park as TNN presents the NHRA Quaker State Mid-South Nationals. Big prizes and big finishes. including top fuel and funny car class finals. Make this TNN special the hottest racing anywhere. All on the award-winning American Sports Cavalcade. Sunday, May 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. Pacific, only on TNN.
You'll find spark plug wires like these on racing engines all over the world. The Moroso Blue Max Spiral Core spark plug wires. Racing engine builders know that Blue Max Spiral Core delivers full voltage to the plugs without static interference. But what does that mean for your car? Blue Max Spiral Core. Plug wires from Moroso. Race proven.
Subscribe to Stock Car Racing magazine. Get all the action from Daytona to America's short tracks. Every month, Stock Car Racing, the magazine that's won more awards for racing coverage than any other. Get the action in this special offer and free racing decals with your paid subscription. The same decals racers put on their cars. Call 1-800-441-3636. For less than $15, you get Stock Car Racing and free racing decals. 1-800-441-3636 for Stock Car Racing magazine.
The streets of downtown Dallas are deserted on this day because everybody is just a few blocks away at the Fair Park for the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas, and into the pits has got Paul Newman's Nissan. So the Newman crew goes to work on this car as Paul Newman stays in. It looks like they've decided that repair can be made. You can see that the car itself has seen plenty of action here today. But again, as we have seen before in this event, the driver, this time Paul Newman, decides to stay in the cockpit and see if they can effect repairs and put him back into the action. He was running 6th as he headed into the pits.
And 6th was a very respectable spot for that long-legged Nissan. It likes big straightaways where it can hit the 160, even 100. Oh, and here is Chris Neifel. He has parked that car in turn number 8. Our onboard camera shows us Chris is getting out of the car, and suddenly there is some smoke from the front end of the automobile. Apparently the impact against the wall has broken something. It could be electrical, it could be oil, hard to say. Now Neifel has dived back into the car, probably to hit the onboard fire extinguisher system. Up rush the SCCA officials. They've got some firefighting apparatus. In replay with our onboard camera, here's Chris. Up ahead of him lies the dog leg. It appears to have everything gathered up until he gets into turn number 8, and all of a sudden the car just does not respond to his touch. And the right front corner is into the wall hard, and the car stops very quickly. It may have been the situation like we saw earlier with Willy T. Ribs, where the car gets into a push and the driver just cannot get it to respond whatsoever. Let's go to Paul Page with the driver of number 33.
Paul, it seems like it's incredibly rough out there. You were running 6 and everybody was beating up on everybody. Can you tell us what's going on?
Well, the course is all marbles, and if you get off the line, you're just into a wall someplace. And it just can't avoid people.
It looked for a moment like you were going to try to get back in.
Well, we broke a shock absorber.
We're sorry. Thank you.
And apparently the groove out there is getting narrower and narrower as Paul Newman looks on. We've got Willy T. Ribs in the yellow Camaro out in front. Hurley Haywood continues to dog him in the all-wheel drive Audi. And Irv Hare in that third spot with a very sensible drive. Now with Neifel out, that's allowed the number 14 Audi of Walter Rule to move up into the 4th spot. Bob Sylvia in the 55 car rounds out the top 5. And here is 6 through 10. Darren Brassfield, since taking over the number 87 Camaro from his father Jerry, has moved that car all the way from 10th up into 6th. Some of those positions he inherited, some he earned.
And Bruce Nesbitt, who started 25th, is up 15 positions, now running 10th. But only the first 3 cars are running on the same lap. And Willy T. Ribs is still the leader, but he is being chased constantly by Hurley Haywood. And it seems to me as a matter of fatigue and concentration that Willie really has to hustle that car. Look at him as he slides the back end out and around, while Haywood, with that amazing all-wheel drive machine, just plants it and chases. And Haywood's machine is working better on the asphalt sections. Here they are on the pit straight. Haywood comes to the inside, tries Willy Ribs, and in turn 1, it is now Hurley Haywood in the Audi that picks up the lead. Ribs is back into 2nd place. And look now as he begins to pull away just a bit. He was waiting for a good, safe opportunity. The rear-wheel drive cars do not work as well in that first turn because of the asphalt, whereas the all-wheel drive cars seem to be working very well all around the circuit. still, it's a matter of tiptoeing here on this track. You have to be careful. Now, Hurley Haywood has the lead. Remember, Audi, with both their cars, have led the race, first with Rural and now with Hurley Haywood. So Willy Ribbs has to play catch-up, but it's obviously going to be one very tough job. Remember Chris Neifel with that magnificent run to the front and then the crash? Well, now he's with Steve Evans.
Well, everyone on pit road glad to see that Chris Neifel is not singed a bit. Chris, that could have been a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened. You know, we'd had that steering problem all weekend. The steering really just locked, it bound up, and it just turned me right into the tire wall, which you'll probably see on the camera. I don't know if I did have a little fire there. I don't know if that was because of the crash or if I had it and it dropped the tire down, or either way, the end result's the same.
Deborah Gregg said that the line out there right now is about half a car wide.
That's about right, but I tell you what, it's the most fun I've had in a race car in a whole long time, and we were running good with the Olivetti car, and I'm disappointed that we're out because we had a good shot at doing well here.
Well, thank you and Bruce Jenner for all your help with us.
Well, thanks for Diamond P and the camera car.
You betcha. Chris Neifel, boy, everybody's having their problems.
Well, it's a driver's circuit, and this driver, Chris Neifel, loves it. Now, look here. Here is the number 14 car. That's Walter Rural. The team seems a little amazed that he's in here. Some confusion there. They're all anxious, ready to do anything, but they're not certain what it is that he wants. Now they seem to be determining that it's something in the power plant as they begin to pull the front end off that number 14 car. The 44 car is the team machine, and it is leading the race, Hurley Haywood. And this man, car number 80, Willy Ribbs, is driving for all he's worth. Look at him pitch the back end as he comes onto the pit straight, trying desperately to regain the lead that he occupied at the green flag at the start of this race. But now it is Haywood using, and Willy Ribbs comes around, taps the wall, loses control, but look at this. He's going to keep going. He didn't get into the wall too bad. He's going to try and back it around, find a position where he can lay the power to it and spin it back on the course. And look at the tire marks that he leaves. We've told you about the marbles. There's a great example of it. He actually leaves marks.
Well, Willie put it into R for race to try to get back into this thing, and it paid off for him. Now here is Walter Rural, and it appears they're going to send that Audi back out one more time. The report we have is it was down on turbo boost, which means that it's down on power. Hopefully they got all the ponies back under that hood. Here is the crew in Ribbs pits. Paul is down there with them.
Well, the crew just got the word, listening to the public address system, also heard it on the radio. Willie got passed in his corner. They saw that, and then one lap later, the report came in that in the third turn, he had spun and tagged the wall. So now they're ready to go. Les Lindley just came back into the pits to watch as his crew prepares now for Willy T. Ribbs' arrival.
Well, a bit of a dilemma, really. If you put tires on it, you give up, for all intents and purposes, any chance to win the race. If you don't, you're just going to continue to have handling problems, maybe spin the car and wreck it. Willy T. Ribbs coming out of turn number 8, and no, he is not going to go into the pit. He is going to stick it out. As you saw, the crew was ready with fresh rubber. Willie says, nope, I'm going to try to muscle this thing around myself. What do you think, Paul?
Well, that's the reason right there. He knows that the 15 car of Irv Hare is closing in on him. Willie is currently in second. He's afraid if he drops into the pits, he'll be out of the action. We'll be back with more action in just a moment.
Buy direct.
Buy direct?
Buy direct. Eliminate the middleman and save.
Where?
Kayak Pools, America's largest manufacturer and retailer of swimming pools. Call 1-800-THE-POOL. Kayak offers sale prices, low monthly payments, fast delivery, and for a limited time only, when you purchase a Kayak Carefree pool, you'll get a Disney World vacation package free.
Wow, resort living in my own backyard with a kayak pool and a Disney vacation free?
That's right. Don't wait. For more information, call Kayak at 1-800-THE-POOL.
The stability of the Kayak organization influenced my decision to buy the pool and that they would be there if I needed them.
We received much more than I thought we would from Kayak. That was the only company I could truly rely on.
Right now, buy direct and own a beautiful 24x12 in-ground pool for under $3,000.
An in-ground pool for under $3,000?
That's right, for under $3,000 when you buy direct from Kayak Pools. Call 1-800-THE-POOL.
Hello, I'm Doug Krotzer, Chairman of the Board of Kayak Manufacturing Corporation. I invite you to call us at 1-800-THE-POOL to take advantage of this special price break.
Remember, a fantastic Disney World vacation is yours free when you purchase the Kayak Carefree award-winning pool. Call 1-800-THE-POOL.
To me, Kayak means a quality pool, quality service, and a company I can trust.
Call 1-800-THE-POOL. That's 1-800-THE-POOL.
She ran her first rally at 22. At 29, she was a champion, with victories worldwide. And though Michelle Mouton has gone from rally champion to mother, one thing hasn't changed. She still drives an Audi. They say the car you drive says a lot about you, but we think the kind of people who drive our cars says a lot about Audi. When you're ready to follow your own road, you're ready for an Audi.
Well, the Pontiac Grand Prix of Dallas is starting to be a little reminiscent of the bumper car concession at the annual state fair here at Fair Park. The field is shrinking mainly due to collisions and crashes into the wall as this very tricky track is taking its toll. Willy T. Ribbs has finally decided to come in and get some tires. It was getting just a little bit scary out there. Paul is on the scene.
All right, here comes Willy T. Ribbs as the crew prepared to go to work once again. And Ribbs sits calmly in the cockpits. Les Lindley said that they wanted to put some new shoes on this machine. They do it on the back end. Brand new tires here. Ribbs checks out the cockpit. And the signal now given. And there goes Willy Ribbs as he spins that back end around and back onto the course.
Tremendous teamwork between driver and crew, and Willy has held on to his second position. Out in front of him, though, by a distant margin is Hurley Haywood as we enter the closing laps of this race.
And much to the credit of that crew, they really got that car retired and back out into the course very, very quickly. Now, Willy wants to throw the car around a little bit here, hit the brakes kind of hard, and make sure that those tires are scrubbed in. In the meantime, back in the pits, this is Walter Rural as they're working on the front end of that 5-cylinder Audi once again. Apparently, a safety wire looks like something has come loose, and they've decided to do some work on it, get it buttoned back down. Remember that this is the team car to the current leader, the number 44 car of Hurley Haywood.
Well, and let's remember, too, this is the team's second race in America with these cars, so they're still doing a little R&D work. Even though Walter may not have a chance to win the race, they're going to let Hurley hopefully take care of that. They want all the track time they can get. The race for second and third has been momentarily interrupted by the race between fifth and sixth, because between Willy T. Ribbs and the yellow 80 Camaro and Irv Hare in the 15 Oldsmobile is the 55 car, Bob Sobey in fifth, and Lynn St. James in the number 2 Mercour. She's in the sixth spot, the right between second and third, laps down.
So Hurley Haywood is the leader. He's the third leader of the race. Willy Ribbs led it early on, and then Walter Rural took the lead until he had his problem. Lynn St. James in sixth place, a magnificent run for Lynn because she started this race back in 18th position. Attrition, very definitely a factor here. It seems that there is no car on this circuit without damage, as we're watching Irv Hare as he gets inside the 55 machine of Bob Sobey and gets away from that battle for fifth place that's going on between Sobey and Lynn St. James. So Irv Hare now has a clear run. He can see Willy Ribbs ahead on the course, and that is his target. Catch up to Willy Ribbs, perhaps take second place away.
And if there's one driver who hasn't traded paint with the competition or put his sponsor's name on the wall instead of the side of the car, it is Irv Hare. A good conservative drive has really paid off. And meanwhile, that race for the fifth spot continues between Sobey and Lynn St. James. Sobey in the normally aspirated yellow and blue Pontiac Trans Am. Lynn St. James in the turbocharged 4-cylinder XR4 TI. Lynn has not got quite the horsepower and torque off the turns, Paul.
So that's the fight for fifth place as we watch them now in the first and second turn. And this track is getting very, very difficult to drive. We watch Lynn St. James work her way through. We're back in the Audi pits now, and this is Walter Rural's machine. Apparently, they have decided whatever is wrong with this car is not fixable here, not fixable today. So they've dropped the safety netting, put the hood back on the car, and Walter Rural climbs out. But he has learned a great deal about Trans Am racing, and this very definitely is a man to watch as he shows his amazing diversification as a racing driver, a World Rally champion, Pikes Peak Hill Climb champion, and on his way to some Trans Am victories, I would suspect. This is his teammate, Hurley Haywood, the number 44 car, again, all-wheel drive. We said at the beginning of this race that all-wheel drive would probably pay off. It is paying off, but not necessarily in the way we expected. We thought that it would work well because it would get around this tight course, but it's helping them on what is a very slick course. Now, let's go to the Audi pits. Walter Rural is with Steve Evans. Steve?
Well,
no one has driven on scarier terrain than this man around the world. But today, this was a challenging racetrack. Walter, very slick racetrack.
Yeah, it's very difficult to drive, but a condition which I like.
Well, you've driven on just about every surface in the world. What about road racing compared to the rally racing that you do?
Okay, I think, like the track is today, it is quite near to rally driving.
Yes. So a good rally driver would do well here with the right car.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
I suspect he's the only guy on the grounds that likes a slick track. Well, he's out and watching now, and certainly relieved that he no longer has to fight this circus with his now littered with cars on the edge of the track. Attrition very definitely a factor, and that has to be uppermost in Hurley Haywood's mind. I got to keep it straight, I got to keep it easy, and I got to watch passes like that.
He wishes right now he had a big air horn in that Audi. You know, anytime you have four-wheel drive, it takes some horsepower to turn that transfer gauge. That's why with your Jeep, when you put it four-wheel drive, your gas mileage goes down compared to two-wheel drive. To help compensate for some of that loss of horsepower, the Audis are fitted with 6-speed transmissions, and Hurley and Walter have been using all 6 speeds, which means they're actually shifting, Paul, sometimes in the turns themselves.
Very busy time in the cockpit on the 44 machine. Willy Ribbs, he's into the wall yet again, but he's got the car under power and is going to try to get back in the race.
Willy Ribbs also has a 6-speed transmission. Only one of those gears is reverse. This is Willy backwards down the front straightaway. He is trying to get down there somewhere where he can turn the car around, backs it into the wall, and there's Les Lindley going, oh, no, why me, Lord? Willy Ribbs now has spun it around and continues the race. The crowd on the front straightaway has gone mad. Now, this has really cost Willy some position, but I think the fans that chip in and make up the difference in the prize money just for the show they saw. Paul?
Well, Les, you got to see that show. Maybe you want to do the play-by-play.
It was quite a show. He's trying as hard as he can, and that's all I can say. You know, he's trying.
From what you saw when he finally spun it around, do you think he'll keep it out?
Yeah, I think he'll keep it out.
Poor Hurley Haywood. He's out there driving one of the best races of his life, and everybody's watching this 80 Camaro that is disintegrating before our very eyes. There's very few corners left on it that are square.
Now, I think he's still got a right rear if he wants to get it, but he's trying pretty hard. Willy Ribbs is on the pit road now. He's finally decided, since he can't see around the hood, maybe it would be a good idea to come in. Maybe they could staple that thing back down.
Or he's just coming in for a periscope. You never know with this guy.
So Willy Ribbs rolls down to the Lindley pits. They have tires ready. They better have a great deal more.